Hello everyone, Kenty Tiger here with Bengali Engineering in Play. We are back in Space Engineers. We're kind of continuing on the final touches on the big behemoth battleship. And I've been... let me get the cursor on the screen here. Been messing around a little bit. I had more conceptually than anything else toyed with the concept of, I wonder if this thing could actually land. I decided against putting landing gear on, mostly because I think from a I've seen people who build very, very large spacecraft in Space Engineers and then indeed take them down to a planet and land them. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes not so successful. Um, I don't know if this particular vessel would actually have the force to hold itself up against gravity. I have no idea. So it's going to be something that may be worth testing. Um, but having said that, I thought I would go ahead and build a landing platform that was built specifically for this vessel. So what I did here was there's about eight, well, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I guess, if we consider the pairs. So we have this forward landing gear area. There's actually two sets of landing gear external to the pods. So port and starboard here, and then there's another almost identical set back here. And the reason I say almost is because we have a connector here that can actually connect onto the ship and do what it needs to do. This is static, so the idea here is that the blocks actually all line up. And what I mean by that is that couplers, landing gear, all the blocks in the game are the same dimensions. And what I mean by that is that you can stack these things creatively together and come up with everything aligns onto a logical grid. So in this case, the landing gear touching the hull of the ship and at the same time lining up on the connectors. So I didn't put in a piston. I was thinking about putting in a piston, and then you'd dock with the landing gear, so the piston would be really the coupler. The connector here would be completely out of the way. So basically, the piston would be embedded in the deck here, and then just the connector would be sitting on the top here, and so the piston would raise it up and go a pre-programmed distance. Obviously, this is 5 meters here, two large blocks tall, 2.5 meters each, which would put this then almost exactly where it needed to be. So you would basically have this thing completely out of the way by the time you docked. So you could actually come in a little bit hot and oops, bounce a little bit and still be okay. Now, when I really got to thinking about that, it was like, okay, there's enough landing gear here to support the moon. So do we really need to worry about anything? Because after all, if I do come down and bounce off these things, I'm going to bounce off the landing gear. Landing gear are pretty tough. So you would have to really do something pretty amazing to to break this connector. I mean, I can't even conceptualize what you'd have to do because it's so close to these landing gear. You would almost have to purposefully come in and dink something, especially in this vessel. There's nothing down here that you would hit the landing gear first. So I decided not really to worry about it. Now, originally I kind of had the connector here. And I was thinking, okay, well, that's really exposed. It's out in the middle of everything. So let's just move it over here. Now, there's not a whole lot on this platform. The platform, I did set this platform as indestructible. And one of the reasons I did that was let's talk about design engineering for a moment. If you're going to let's take the space shuttle launch pads. So United States space shuttle, obviously the program is shut down now, but the space shuttle launching platforms, of course made of concrete, but these things are designed to take this just hideous amount of thrust and then vent the exhaust gases and in fact initially the thrust. So there's a lot of mechanical force here. So this landing platform is designed to move this exhaust and thrust away and vent it harmlessly. Reasonably harmlessly. Obviously, over time, you're going to, chip the concrete, that sort of thing. Heat does things. So, what my concept is that, okay, the normal thrusters are going to deform most any block within the game. Now, there are concrete blocks and stuff like that actually are extremely resistive to heat. But rather than rebuilding the platform every time I land, I just decided, okay, let's just make this whole thing indestructible. Some other advantages to that is while you're off planet or wherever, then this will potentially go undisturbed and unharmed. So that was another reason. So most of my activity in the last really off screen was dedicated to building this. And I think it turned out fairly well. So we have the one set of gear forward. We have these two sets, which are 6 each, and you wouldn't need this. One set of landing gear, boom, you're locked. You're down and locked. This was more for, again, my OCD and structural engineering design is that you're talking about 57 million tons. Okay, so this ship is extremely heavy, given a normal gravity type of a situation. What is this? Uh-huh. Alright, so I've seen it now. I have to deal with it now. So, okay. There we go. And I think I'll just put another one there just to make it look symmetrical. I'm not even entirely sure I know what that is. This was another piece, so I'm just going to, for the sake of put it down. these are all pointed out, so perhaps... Oops. There we go. And maybe we'll just connect so they don't look like, hey, what's this out here? So, I called this kind of the finishing touches video for a reason. There's lots and lots of things. I mean, every time you pick through something, it's all like, okay, here's something else that I forgot. Here's something else I forgot. Here's something else I forgot. And a lot of times as you build, for those of you who've played Space Engineers for a little while, you know that every project that you get into is an evolution. You have conceptualizations, you have ideas in your mind when you first start building something, and if you're anything like me, I am a design engineer, so I have an idea in my head, and I try and develop that idea, create a very mature concept. Then I take that concept and I put it onto paper. Now, for those of you who are engineers, you know that taking a design concept out of your head and then putting it onto paper, you're going to discover, oops, okay, that doesn't work. The paper version really refines the idea. Okay, this part doesn't match up like I thought it would, once I get it onto paper and I can actually apply some mechanical design realities to something. Then we go through that first stage of, dare I call it, sanity checking. Now, when you take that paper, usually, as they say, it looks damn good on paper. Then you actually build whatever it is, and you discover that, oh, well, that didn't quite work as designed. And so you have the second stage of sanity checking, the second stage of, oops, that didn't work. And in reality, you come up with something that traverses the span, traverses the gap, the crevasse from the design to the actual, okay, we built this thing and now it's sitting in front of us. So a lot of this, obviously, I didn't draw this ship out on paper. I just started building it to see what happened. And, you know, at the very beginning, I literally started with this here. So I had an idea, okay, I want to use these guns. And I thought these guns were 5x5. They're actually 7x5. 7x7. So that made things a lot different. And then it's all like, okay, how am I going to incorporate these large-scale weapons here? And so as I worked my way forward there, there was a lot of discoveries. And you just start with an idea. So this was my concept. This was the only thing I had in my mind when I started this thing. And it was all like, okay, how can I lay down these two weapons? And originally they were going to be one directly forward from the other. And then it was like, okay, well, that there's a reason why the aft gun turret is elevated. That way you can swing those barrels around on a flat plane and be above the weapon that's in front. Obviously, you don't want the block here. So, if we think about this in conceptualization, pure battle tactics here, and let me change the scale here so you can see this a little easier. Each one of these weapons, let me get that off the screen. Each one of these weapons has almost a 270-degree arc. It's probably closer to 280, almost 290 degrees. So this aft cannon will swing around until the barrels hit the bridge. So you've got an incredible arc for firing. And if we look at these, the ones back here, then this this first aft one here actually has almost a 300 degree. So as long as I don't shoot the bridge, then I have this span. So obviously, you know, our arc radius here. So pretty good coverage, considering where these things are. So this has slightly less because ultimately these barrels are going to come around and swing into this turret. So we're back to the about 270, 280 degree arc. So overall, from a purely warfare tactics and design perspective, we actually have an incredible firing arc on all four of these turrets. Of course, remember, these turrets are very, very slow lumbering creatures, and they take about 15 to 20 seconds to reload. They do fire one barrel at a time, which is good, but, you know, if you fire, and fire, then yes, you still have 18 seconds before you can fire again, but at least it's 18 instead of 20. Does 2 seconds really matter? Well, those of you who have actually been in war, you know that 2 seconds is an eternity. It doesn't seem like very long in our normal everyday lives, and in fact it's not. But in a warfare type environment where every millisecond counts, 2 seconds truly is an eternity. You can do an awful lot in 2 seconds. Save your buddy's life, not save your buddy's life. So there's a lot of things that so anyway, without getting off on a warfare tangent. So the battleship here evolved. A lot of things changed over the course of time. How things changed from somewhat of a vanilla concept design to just decided to abandon the whole vanilla idea and go with what I had. How I wanted to capture a lot of information. I'll zoom in a little bit here so you can see it. So this is the navigation console here. There's actually 6 LEDs. Let me move down a little bit so you can actually see them. So there's actually 6 LEDs next to the pilot's console, which is on the other side, and this side is the navigation console. So a lot of information here, including shield information, that's all right here. And the downside to small blocks and large blocks, small blocks on large grids, and that sort of thing, is that the projection system is grid dependent. And what I mean by that is that if I have a large, this is something I wish would change, and I kind of understand why it's not. It is a challenge. Whip obviously has or maybe Digi, it might be Digi, that did this this grid to grid connection block. The grid differential being what it is, I've got a projector in this vessel, which is in fact why I haven't done some of the little nitpicky stuff after the fact, because I set everything, I programmed it, I put it in, I got it working, and then it was like, okay, I'm going to leave it alone. For those of you who really work with projectors and understand recursive functionality, and I know that's a very large term to use in space engineers here, but it's kind of the chicken before the egg theory. I've got a projector on a ship. So I take a blueprint of a ship, I put it in the projector, and now there is a ship with a projector with its own image in it. So the chicken for the egg. Does the blueprint, which you just put in the projector, have the projector with the ship in the projector? Not a play on words. think about it. It will get your mind in a circular paradox there. So what I do is I build my ship. I put the projector on. Obviously, the projector is empty. I put the blueprint as it exists with the projector, of course, non-working projector, into the projector, get the ship all lined up, and then a lot of times I'll turn the projector off. Because the projector takes a certain amount of CPU, depending on how you have it set, to keep projecting the image, even if it's not projecting the image. And there's other things that are kind of a pain in the butt when it comes, to the projections. For example, if you're coming up on a connector and the projector is on, even though it's not projecting anything, you'll have a lot of trouble actually getting the command reticle to come up. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm approaching this connector here, and you see, boom. Okay, so I have these 4 little arrows out here that say I can now interact with this. And you go up to a command console, control panel, anything like that, and it's the same thing. You get close enough, and you'll have boop, that little highlight box comes up and says I can interact with this. When you have a projector on, even though the images are all lined up, even though you may not be able to see anything, it does affect those, and it makes it sometimes very, very hard to work with. Interacting with things. So a lot of times you'll save a lot of effort to turn that projector off. So you put the image in the projector and you turn it off. Then you save the blueprint again, which means now you've got the ship with the projector, with the ship image in the projector, now saved to your blueprints folder. And what I do is I take that blueprint and then put it into the projector. So now we have a ship with a projector with the image of the ship with the image of the ship in the projector. So follow me through here. I put that in there. Then I save that blueprint into my blueprints folder. So then, even though this is kind of recursive, I think I now have a completely circular paradox. I don't have anything that's oblong or anything that's going to be out of balance. So that's where I stop. So it's actually a threefold evolution. Build the ship in the projector, put basically the dummy image into the projector. Now you have a ship image in the projector. Save that one. Put that image into the projector, then save the whole thing back to your blueprints folder. So that should be as accurate of a rendition of the vessel as you can possibly get. Okay, so having blabbled all that, I did finish the scaffolding, the catwalks as I had intended, as I mentioned last time. So we have the mount point here. This one comes up, so you can actually transit from this landing pad to these landing pads, possibly go in. You can also go up to the top here, which means you can walk over to the bridge. So that was the whole point of having all these come up, is now you can actually walk over here to the bridge. That's really what I wanted. I may still, just for fun, put scaffolding along this whole edge, just to kind of give a little bit of cover to these hangar doors, and I might as well. There's no reason not to. So go right up to the edge here and then dump you out on either side. The only reason I didn't do that before is because of these guns here. That technically that block would be in the swivel pattern, so I kind of didn't do that. So the scaffolding inside and out are done. Let me see where my alright, so let's go ahead and go into the hangar bay. We'll show you what we did in here. There's actually two elements to this. So we have this upper section, which is actually the hangars, the fighter bays here. So we come down on either side of the hangar bay here. Now this front section obviously has doors, so you could oops and run into something here. Obviously we didn't need to do that back here. We have these airlocks that go out to the landing pads. So we basically have a ladder going up, naval term there, a staircase going up to here, and the same thing on this side going up to here. Originally I was thinking I would have catwalks that would go all the way around, come down and go in here, and the reason I didn't do that was because these air vents are here. I don't know if I put a catwalk in front of the air vent, will it prevent the air vent from working and block hit zones. Being what they are, I've seen weird things happen. So I didn't want to defeat. I didn't want to defeat an air vent by way of putting something in front of it, even though logically it's not there. Within the context of the game, that block is a solid block. So, catwalk in front of the air vent, it wouldn't affect the air vent, but in Space Engineers, where things are kind of calculated based on a block size, and all the hitboxes around them are static. And so, anyway, didn't end up doing that. Just came down. Back here at the other end, we had something similar. We had the catwalks here at the door, and then come down to the deck here. And I suppose cover the deck, which I didn't do. Strange. On aft here, and then everything here. So not a whole lot of changes internally. Everything stayed pretty much the same. So obviously these are the connectors for, I'm wandering through the blocks here. We didn't change anything here, so most all of our displays and everything are the same. Nothing there has changed. We got Izzy up to our standardized component summary, how we wanted it. In fact, quite a bit more in a lot of cases. Power, uranium, ice, and built up a lot of stores. More jump drives forward here, and then finally our forward reactor room. Is this forward reactor room or aft reactor room? Aft. So we are aft. So 7 jump drives total. So 2 in the back, 2 forward, and then 3 in that shield room. 2 more shield generators here, making it a total of 10. Oh, sorry, 12. Because we have 4, 8, 9, 10. 10. Sorry. 10 of them, not 12. Having said that, roll over the weapons here and into the bridge. We still have the shield, the large shield display here, but we have the small block assembly here. So the original one was this mounting point was against this bulkhead, and I was like, okay, I really want to have it so when you're sitting down you don't have to turn nearly as far. And let me demonstrate what I mean by that. So as I sit in the pilot's seat here, we have a certain view. This, of course, is Colt 16's command console. This is the control console HUD, where you actually have your heads-up display that's transparent. In this case, I moved these 6 to be one block closer. So they were, if you imagine a reticle obviously doesn't exist right now, but one block back. So the center line block here, which were these 3, and then so actually these 3, if we pretend there's a set there, and then these forward ones were here. So with this panel, this magic block here being on the deck now instead of on this bulkhead, it let me move these forward. I did have to rebuild everything. I was hoping everything would work and I could just pull things out and repaste, but you can't. So it did require me to rebuild everything. I think it actually, I think, turned out well. So let me get out of the chair here. While this thing is kind of obnoxious looking, do I really need conveyors sitting here on the bridge? And the answer is no. But this device still does what it does very well. So originally there was a computer hanging off the side here, which got replaced. I put it in the center, and I ended up putting 2 more just for sake of busy. Having a console here makes it look like something's going on. So I went ahead and did that. This is the only one that's active, and it is running MMaster's LCD2 script there. I don't know why this worked the way it was, but it would not. The LCDs were not visible from the large grid to the small grid. So the script that was running on the Battleship itself did not see the LCDs that were on this secondary small grid, directly attached small grid. So I don't know why that is, but oops, I don't know. I had to put the script here, and then the script reads across as long as I did not use the T coding. So the T just says, look at this grid. So interesting things that I had to play with. Oddly enough, Whip's Artificial Horizon worked fine. The Whip's Speed Match worked just fine, and the shields work just fine, because the shields actually are not on this grid. The shields are on the big grid that this small grid is attached to. So anyway, the good news is I now have a lot of information sitting here. The bad news is, from a projector perspective, this grid will not replicate. So if there is a problem somewhere, then this particular grid will be destroyed, and there's no way to bring it back. Oops. So the reality of intermixing small grids and large grids is really what that is. All right. So having babbled quite a bit and reviewed quite a bit of what was done, what wasn't done, there's a couple little tiny housekeeping things that I wanted to do. One of which is this was fine where it was before I built the landing pad. Once I built the landing pad, then it was like, hey, that's kind of So what I want to do is recreate this button, and I do have the button still up here, and this, even though it's forward, seems to be the most logical place for it. So we're putting on the port one here. Let me go ahead and get myself in here. We'll make it easy and just go down here and see what this thing says. Because I typically will name fighter bays port. Yeah. So we'll do the same thing here. And then we'll actually delete the one down below. So this is in fact fighter base port. We did create the one on the other side by virtue of having mirroring on. All right. And then this one becomes fighter base starboard. All right, active buttons. So in this case, we're going to go into groups, and I lectured you before on naval terminology and numbering. So fighter bay 1 is on the starboard side. So fighter bay 2 is the first one on this side. We're going to do an open or close, which means 4 is the next one on this side. Open, close. And then 6 is the third one on this side. And at the same time, we're going to do all fighter bays port on this side. Open, close. Okay, so in this case, one of these is open, so it shows as open, which is in fact that one. And that's open for a reason. So having done this, actually we can do this from... Oh, and I just set up the wrong one. Oops. Okay, let's try this again. Fighter base port, groups, 2 open closed, 4 open close, 6 open close, and port open close. And because I'm a total idiot, let's go ahead and go back to starboard and fix this one. Groups, which is 1 open close, 3 open close, 5 open close, and starboard open close. All right, which has now moved the button bar to a logical location now that I actually have these little landing pads here. So let's go down here. We're going to use the build and repair system to do what, and I might actually have it turned off, and okay, that is owned by me. I just wanted to make sure of that before I turned the build and repair systems on again. So I had some trouble. You have trouble. Here's hint hint. This will save you an awful lot of pain. Whenever you're working with projectors, turn your build and repair systems off. Just do it. Trust me. So you first turn your projector on. It is at some random orientation, and the build and repair system, when you have build new turned on, when checked, the build and repair system will also construct projected blocks. So what's the moral of the story? When you first turn your projector on, the probability is virtually infinite to 1 that the projection will not be oriented where you want it to be. But the build and repair system doesn't care. It has a projected block. It's going to instantly start building, even if it builds it where you absolutely don't want it and just completely renders your build lunacy. Just save yourself the heartache. Turn them off before you turn the projector on. Trust me. Once you get it all lined up, it's great. But get it lined up, then turn them on. Otherwise, turn them off. Turn them off. Turn them off. All right. We'll go ahead and turn these on. So build new. Remember that. Build new. Turn them off. All right. All right, so effectively we have a spacecraft here that I think is as done as we can make it. Now, one of the things I failed to mention that I might as well mention here, I did put medical bays out here. So you have a medical bay on each side. It's the mini medical bay. Duncan Kong, I don't know if I haven't seen anything from Duncan Kong in a long time, but this was that modder's model. So Duncan Kong, the small medical bay. There's actually a couple different. I think Whip has one. VCZ has a mini medical bay that's like mounted on a bulkhead. And I think you can heal with it and you can spawn at it, but you can't do so this you can actually change suit features in. So this is like the large medical bay. So that's why I liked it. It's single block bay instead of 4 blocks, so it works. I liked it. So I put those in on each side. I figured that was why the hell not, because I already have conveyor out here. I might as well use it for something. And after all, it's logical that, okay, you've been in a fighter and you took some damage and everything, so you jump out of your fighter after you land or crash and wander over here and heal yourself. So it seemed logical. We talked about the structural supports on the engine pods. I did put the structural supports, like I had mentioned before, for the landing pads. So structural support complete. Obviously we've been working with it here, but you see I did build these small landing pads in here as well. So originally they were going to be a little bit bigger, and I decided that because of the landing or the engine pod here, that if I went 1 or 2 blocks more, it actually looked kind of bizarre. And in fact, it looked like, why didn't you connect these things? And I actually thought about connecting them, and then it was like, okay, I've got in fact reversed angles here, so there's no easy way to run these two angles to each other so they would actually look like they belong there. So I just decided, okay, let me just chop off 2 blocks here, and here we are. All right, so a couple of the interesting things that I have to do. So to take a blueprint of the ship here, I actually need to go here and turn off the landing gear. Connector, switch lock and off, and landing gear, so T. Okay, so the connector is not connected in this case, and the landing gear is saying we're in proximity, so they're yellow, but they're not armed, so they're not locked, which is exactly what I wanted. Now, you notice I have the port side bay 1 door open here, which is really to say bay 2. When I had everything locked down, now you have small grids interacting with large grids, and let me do a shift 1 so you can see what's going on. Show all warnings. So what does the performance screen mean? The last occurrence of something will show up here. So the last time the game triggered something, then it will show up here. Now, here's some interesting things. There are no ladders in this world. Okay, they're loaded. Okay, so they are a buildable block, but they are not in this world. So how is something that is not in the world at all slowing the game down? Great question. Nanobot build and repair system. Obviously, there's a bunch of them. The Nanite Control Factory. It is a mod that's loaded. Not a single one in the world anywhere. So why is it slowing down the game? So clearly, this is back to the Digi's wings caused all the game crashes before. That's a cynical statement. Okay, for whatever reason, if you had Digi's aerodynamics as an active mod, it didn't matter if you were using them or not, that would always come up as the cause for the crash, even though it's total horseshit. Anyway, so what does all this mean? Okay, I loaded the game about 50 minutes ago. Okay, so the last time these were triggered was 50 minutes ago. Now, we will probably see some changes here. So one of the things, when I land, I always program a bar. So let me get in here. I always program a bar. So this is bar 1. This is my main operations bar. And in this case, bar 2, because there's just no need for anything else, which I can turn everything off. Okay, I can turn gyros off, I can turn my antenna off, I can turn my main thrusters and my maneuvering thrusters off. So you notice here, number 1 is off. That's my mains. Number 9 is my maneuvering, also off. Number 8 is gyros, off. And the antenna, number 7, off. Okay, so this machine is completely shut down, except I didn't do the Y. Now, the reason I don't do the Y is because if you're connected onto the grid and you push Y, you're controlling the entire grid, not just this grid. Okay, so the small grid connected onto the large grid, you press Y, the entire connected assembly goes dead. Okay, I always thought this was really stupid. Why do you have this Y feature if it spans to the other grid? So there were some things that I think they should have been disconnected that weren't. So P was another thing. it affects everything across the entire connected array. And I just think there are some things that should stop at the grid in question. And of course, both of those are beyond the capability of the engine. So I understand why it does it. It's a limitation within the engine, but it's extremely inconvenient, and it's something that they should have thought through and, made. But again, I get off on a tangent. So here's what I need to do. Number 6 is the connector. This is why I don't turn the ship off, is because if you turn the ship off, now your connector is off. You can't connect an off connector. You can't connect a connector that's turned off. So I have to have power in the ship to connect. But I don't want the gyros or the thrusters or anything to go off while I'm in here. If this connected grid were live, then the gyros will apply force. The thrusters will fire everything. And this is inside a bay. Okay? The last thing I want is my thrusters to go off while I'm trying to maneuver the ship inside the bay. That would suck. So, number 6, which locks everything back in. Having one ship locked onto the grid, not a big deal. Having 3 ships locked onto the grid, so these are the same thing. This is my number 1. Number 2, number 3, just visual. Number 4, miscellaneous stuff. Number 5, 6, 7, 8, and I programmed all these on 9. So what you notice is that my weapon systems are all off. That's 1, 2, and 3. My jump drives on this vessel are off. The gyros are off. Main thrusters are off. Maneuvering thrusters are off. The build and repair system that's embedded in this vessel is off, and the antenna is off. Okay, so everything is turned off, but it's still on. Okay, so I'm still powered. I still have power available, but everything is off. So you notice the Y over here on the bottom right-hand portion of the HUD. You see it's active. So the power is on. It's ready to go. All I have to do is light everything off. So let's go back to a number 1. You'll notice number 7 there says ready. So we're going to go ahead and connect in. So everything here is off. So locked. Okay, so we see the connector turn green. All right, I'm going to jump out of here. And one other thing you notice, you see I've got laggies. I've got little hiccups as I'm moving around. It's no longer very, very stable. Shift F11, yeah. So we see that frame rate bounce all over the place, the UPS, and I don't know what that really means. So we just have those little hiccups every once in a while. All right, let's go back to number 9. You notice that everything is off from one end to the other. So off, off, off. This is the exact same thing as we had on the other side. This is an identical fighter, by the way. It's the same thing. Now I'm locking onto the ship using the connector rather than the landing gear. Landing gear can still be a little wonky, but let me go ahead and lock. So that's number 7, and now we're locked. As I come out of here, you're going to notice that I am even more laggy. So we just have these strange little hiccups as we go. So I noticed that when I detached, there we go, I see all the laggy. All right, let's go back into shift 1. Not showing anything. Scripts. Executing programmable block script. Too many or too complicated scripts. Now, I really have this having seen this, probably what I need to do is create and let, oh, bang. All right, get in here. Okay. Actually, let's go to, okay, unlock, which is 7. We're going to go to Control 8, and we're going to do a K. All right, maneuvering thrusters off. Off. Program. Okay, so I created a group called program blocks. And here's where I'm going with this. So let's get back out of here. We're on toolbar number 8. I'm going to punch G, groups, system program blocks. We're going to put this in number 1, and toggle block on and off. Okay, off. Okay, so I'm going to shut down all of the scripts that are running on the fighter. Back to bar number 1 and 7. Reconnect. Okay. Now, I've done that. We're going to go to the other side here and do this as well. So let me get into this cockpit. Still laggy. But we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to unlock, go into K. We're going to go into program. We have program blocks, system, program, blocks, save. Those are already toolbar number 8, G, groups, my program blocks, and toggle blocks on and off. So off, back to toolbar number 1 and relock, and then T for escape. Nope, still bouncing. Shift F1. Still claiming too many scripts, but at least we get to 2 seconds instead of 1 second. So, unlocked. Gonna go over here and unlock. Seven, unlock, T to exit. And we're moving. Oh, whoops. 6. There's only 2 program blocks on this particular build. Program blocks. I'm not sure why those are turned on. I'll turn those off. Let's see what else we got turned on here. Reminder. So I should have a systems LCD. Yeah. So that should have turned all of those off. Yes, it did. All right. The reason why I address these programming blocks separately is the exact same thing as before. I want to go ahead and we're going to add that onto the groups bar, which should be this one here. And I guess we'll just stick that out there. So in this case, number 4, I want to turn off the programming blocks, and then 6 is going to remain as my link. So that way nothing on this particular vessel is interfering with anything else. Now I do need to do a rework on this particular vessel. So this particular vessel is not, it has to have the antenna to be able to communicate back, to transmit the data, everything. So having that antenna on while you have the PvP corruption mod on is going to cause you a lot of trouble because it uses the antenna to hack. So what I need to do with this particular miner, in fact, did I link this guy up? I can't tell. I can't tell if I linked or not. Yes, I did log. So let me pause for half a second. I got a redesign or design note. Okay, so that's just a note for myself. The things that I need to do here to the miner and hack defense. All right. All right, so update of individual blocks, too many blocks in the world, which is true. There's a whole bunch. Now it's been 4 minutes since too many or too complicated scripts. All right. So this guy is locked. So we can push that button and that will come down. We are not locked onto the bottom, but what I do want to do here is lock here. So T, we already have our programmable block. So just for fun, yeah, I've got the laggies. So Shift F1. And all of a sudden it goes to scripts being an issue. So the scripts are turned off. Huh. That may not be true. All right. Sorry, go back to 8. Sorry, 8. G groups. Somewhere in here is Jump drives. Shields. Nope, still having issues, but I do have the shields turned on the other side. Oops. Number one. Uh-oh. I oopsed. I just turned the shields on the ship off, or the battleship off. Alright, let me do the same thing over here. T7, so we're gonna disconnect, sorry, get out to toolbar number 8, G, groups, and shields. Toggle on off. 3. Ah, I did the same thing again. I thought I had disconnected, but obviously I didn't. Okay. Alright, so both of the fighters are disconnected, so shift F1. So block updates became the issue. Scripts now drop to the second block issue. Alright. So sorry I turned this this video into a little bit of troubleshooting. Alright, so let's go over to number 8. We see that shields, the entire shielding system is off. And then the programmable blocks are off. So if we go back to number 1 and connect, then we should not have, you know, any real major scripts, and I'm still feeling it. Alright, so this guy is not connected, but if I bring up a shift F1, then we're back to scripts. So I want to call bullshit because everything is turned off. So I wish there was a way I could turn off and keep everything linked, but there isn't. Or let's try. So off, lock, and Y. Okay, well, the good news is the main ship is still powered up. Okay, well, my script issue apparently went away. Or did it? Scripts 1920, yeah, okay. Huh, that's interesting. So something, while this thing is powered up. Okay, so I stand corrected on the Y thing. Huh, but this one is also powered down. And interestingly enough, number 4 is showing as on, even though, oh. Huh. So that's not really on, but it's on. That's why. So now the buttons are, yeah. Well, did the laggy go away? No. Shift F1. Block updates. Huh. But those particular issues did. Alright, so let me go back in here and check this. T. So interestingly enough, all of the small ships powered down. So the Y here is turned off as well. I don't know how that's possible, but clearly it is. Alright, so we'll close that up. The good news is what we have done here is, so the battleship as it is, so if we project the blueprint, it will only project the large grid. But if we save, so Control C, it's going to whine and whir a little bit here. So one of the things you notice is that you can see both of the fighters on the landing bays, on the landing pads. So when you copy your blueprint, it actually copies everything on that grid. Okay, and remember when you're connected, you are actually crossing over. So let me rephrase that a little different way. When you take a blueprint, it will blueprint the entire grid array. So anything connected on will be copied as is and will be a part of the blueprint. Which is why I went through this whole evolution, to get everything locked back down, get it all working and doing everything. So F10, which brings into my blueprint menu, I'm going to highlight the battleship, replace with clipboard, yes, because I want all of that to be on the clipboard. Okay. Remember we talked about the recursive paradox of projectors. So let me zoom in because I want to get to this control panel. K, we're going to do this and projector. How about projector? So these are the two saber-tooths. This is the ship's projector. I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to go into blueprints. I'm going to select the redone blueprint. Okay, it's going to give me a warning. Multiple grids are not supported, which is exactly what I want. That's fine. Okay, so now we go back in, we turn the projector off. So it has the updated blueprint of the ship. We do a Control-C again. Now we could do a Control-B and do the same thing, but it changes the name. And of course you can edit the name, but this is, to me, this is easier. So once I have a copy of the blueprint, it's on the clipboard. So F10, highlight and select, replace, yes. Okay, so here's the process, and again, a recursive paradox, a subroutine which calls itself, is the kind of thing, if you're familiar with programming, if you remember programming. So we made the changes to the grid, we saved it as a blueprint, then we took that blueprint, loaded it into the projector, then saved the blueprint with itself in the projector, and then took the blueprint again, now with itself saved in the projector, and saved it as a blueprint. So that should be, in my mind, now a full circle back to the beginning, that I am as accurate as I can possibly be in terms of what the battleship is. So the battleship, should it come into problems, I turn the projector on, and the build and repair system does what it does. So I think I'm okay there. Not sure, but I think I'm okay. All right, so this landing platform, I kind of have to decide what to do with it. Actually, I'll decide what to do with it off screen, because that really has nothing to do. So what I want to do is do some modifications to the miner, which are off screen. I want to do some modifications to the fighter, which we've already done. So I'll do those off screen. And then I'll do some work on the landing pad, because I really want to make this as something that I can just paste onto a planet and boom, be done. So I don't want to bore you with all those, because I'm really just in total creative mode. I have no idea what I want to do. I just want something that's reasonably pasteable, is what I've got there. So having said all that, I think I'm going to call it quits on this video. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate your viewing. This is Kenty Tiger signing off, and we'll catch you next time.